a sector perhaps that doesn't talked about quite a bit, which is the oceans economy. And we're trying to unpack what this means and what it means for you and I. A statistic that came up is that at its full potential, it's believed that the oceans economy can contribute up to 177 billion rand to GDP and create over 1 million jobs by 2033. So huge potential. This is one area that perhaps we haven't discussed as importantly and as urgently as we needed to, given the resource that's available. And our panelists here have unpacked big pictures for us, but let's start looking at your questions and the audience here. But let me get back to you, Mr. Value. So you would know, based on how many people, how many clients you have, volumes of cargo that's moving around, just how much this sector has grown in the last 3 years. Because Operation Phakisa Oceans Economy, talked about it, July 2014 is when it's been launched. Have you seen a significant uptake, in the number of clients and what they're doing in the various areas of the sector?
Well, so we've established that the ports is an enabler for economic growth.
Right.
And I think that's a very important departure point. Mike has spoken about arcing back to the glory days when we were shipbuilders. And somehow there's been a malaise in terms of that kind of capability. Now, it's common knowledge that Transnet is spending 7.7 billion over the next 10 years in terms of training, right? And just to break that down further, and this contributes to the oceans economy in many ways that we don't really see. Per year, Transnet spends about 700 million training about 56,000 people in all sorts of different courses. So that in itself is a staggering statistic. Now, you can have that kind of capability, which needs to be matched with modern infrastructure, which is what we are doing as well, facilitating that economic enablement. And let's just go back to that 300 million tons that we were talking, or 800 million tons we were talking about in Africa. In South Africa itself, 300 million of that 800 million passes through our ports, our 8 complementary system of ports. So we're dealing with a great deal of that cargo going out and coming in. We used to have a strategy, and this is how we go about leveraging the strength of our integrated logistics network, where we have a commodity-based economy moving stuff from the mines to the ports. And we said, well, let's stop somewhere in between and create factories, which is what we need to do, because we need to manufacture. And therein comes the manufacturer transport sector, marine transport and manufacturing. So when you combine modern infrastructure with highly skilled, competent people, you have a capability. Because the whole idea here is for us to make sure that the throughput that goes through the ports goes through as efficiently as we can, so that it lowers the cost of doing business, and then it attracts further business into our country. So that is our role. Now, Temagwala here, who represents the Transnet Port Terminals, which is our biggest customer, and they do about 4.7 million TEUs per year, which is the largest in Africa, right? Next to the port of Tangiers and Port Said in Egypt. We have to also keep them honest. So it's not just about infrastructure, it's about capability. It's also about how do we go about regulating operational efficiency. And you know, the paradox when it comes to ports is that we have the same port precinct or the same land size, but we have to continuously upgrade that. And now we have Operation Phakisa, which, you know, we haven't sort of communicated in the way that we should, because we're going through a number of governance processes in trying to select the number of private companies who are going to be participating in it. So a lot of work has been done. It just has to be communicated.
Okay, between the two of you, one of the things that I'm interested in as well, because you're a big cog in this oceans economy logistics wheel. We're talking about these 1 million jobs by 2033. How many of those are going to be at Transnet and the Port Authority and the logistics operations side?
Well, the mere fact that we create platforms and facilities. We've got, at the moment, close to 100 terminal operators, because that's what we do. We concession out some of the services on the seaside, on the land side, to terminal operators. We say, we've created a platform for you, come and do the work for us, like what is happening now in TPT and how we're growing it. But we also don't just stop there. It's about maintenance, it's about training, and so forth and so forth. So if you think about what is happening in Operation Phakisa, there's a number of different projects and programs that are already underway. So we will be attracting private sector participants together with ourselves, looking at partners, the universities, embracing the fourth industrial revolution in how we go about making sure that our operational efficiency is on par with world-class benchmarks.
Okay. Mr. Gwala, I want to believe that the oceans economy has kicked off already, that we're not just talking about something that's in the future, because one of the things we love to do in South Africa is have Lekotlas, Bosperas, and we praat and praat and praat, but we need for things to be happening. Are you seeing the volumes that work to prove the story of Operation Phakisa, or are we still talking?
Peter, I'll give you a mixed bag. One, volumes have not been increasing for that much for the past 3 years. I think everybody knows the economy worldwide has not been doing well, so there's not been much growth. So the question is, how do we use the capacity we have to still achieve the same objective? So one of the things we've been driving is the increase on transshipment. What are transshipments? This is cargo that is not originating from us, is not destined for us. It's a cargo that comes from other countries, destined to other countries. What we then do, we play a role in between in terms of changing their vessels, because they would like to run the big vessels on the main corridors and small feeder vessels. So for us to create employment, we had to use cargo for other countries to create employment in South Africa using the transshipment concept. We have built that concept. I think we have reached almost 1 million TEUs now. And obviously employ people to execute those activities. The other area also of concern has been, you recall that small miners on coal specifically, small miners have been having a challenge in terms of exporting this cargo. Obviously, with the view they can create jobs in the mines as well as in the port. We've partnered with private sector, specifically at Richards Bay, where we've opened a facility mainly for SMMEs that are using now to export coal. Yes, I don't have figures for every mine how much employment they've created on that. The third area that is also showing very positive signs is the manganese market. Manganese market, as we speak now, looks very good. And if there's any opportunity, I would suggest we should put a bit more effort on the manganese, because that's where I believe we will create more jobs, as well as some small companies also in that supply chain. But obviously, we've got other initiatives that we had already commenced with. We've decided to enhance the SMMEs. For example, I'll take the Steve Doring. The Steve Doring is operation on the vessel. What we've done on that one, we could have easily employed people to do it ourselves, but we've asked MMEs to come forward on that, and they're busy doing the job. What we've found is that if we employ these SMEs to do that function, they tend to employ more people than what we would have employed by ourselves alone to perform the same function. And obviously, other areas also in Steve Doring, like the driving function, we handle about 700,000 cars in this country, both import and export per annum. And obviously, activities to perform, like driving, to load the cars on ships, on trains, and so on. We've also gone for SMEs to do those kind of functions. Yes, my answer, it has started. Yes, there's still a lot to do, but I think slowly we'll get there.
All right, I'm going to explore the supply development aspect of what you were talking about just now. But let me turn to you, Mike. The President said in 2014, we have constantly lamented that we have good plans, but the implementation part is a challenge. We are now focusing intensively on implementation. That was the President in 2014. Have we done that? Or what's holding us back?
I think that when we had the laboratories in Operation Pakisa, we looked at alignment of state policy, of government departments, and we very quickly found that we weren't all on the same page. So there has been a lot of strategy alignment in terms of legislation and even documentation. I would say the oceans economy has always been there. South Africans have always been involved. Pakisa was a wake-up call for more people to get involved. For example, there's more than 500 South Africans serving on cruise ships around the world. We export catamarans from Cape Town, and we have a timeshare business that is massive. Only the French can equal it. So we are world leaders in certain areas of economy. We built Moscas, and then we stopped. And I think one of the problems is the stop-start issue of the maritime economy, that we get a few protagonists that are all eager beaver, and then they move on, and the system degrades again. The same for our ship repair areas with the graving docks. We've changed from throwing rocks at each other between the TNPA and the industry to now hand-holding and handshaking. And I think for the transport industry as well, we are looking at ways to smooth the logistics of getting cargoes from A to B. Some of the small manufacturers, I believe, are going to have a few problems. For instance, bringing a big package of containers in, and here comes your small local manufacturer importing something. His container is not going to get preferential treatment. Those issues still need to be addressed so that our SMMEs actually get fair ball, if I can put it that way. The opportunities has always been there, and now we have government-sponsored management of it. And I think the vision, we were talking earlier before we came online, that I didn't know they were making manufacturing locomotives in Bay Head area. I was bragging about when I first worked in Bay Head, we had 9,000 people there. Now we've got probably 9,000 containers.
Wow.
And we're trying to get that picture reversed. And the DTI is playing its part, getting it into a SEZ. And I think the future is good. It's not bad. What we need to be is sponsors of the change, and not critical.
So if in other sectors we have this challenge of inclusivity, getting more and more black people involved in these sectors, I would say if there's a challenge there, in this oceans economy, it's probably one area that really, really hasn't done that journey. Are we starting to reverse that? Are we starting to bring more and more players into the maritime sector?
You know, I was talking to one of the technicians at Elgin Brown and Hamer. She's a lady. She's got a diploma in mechanical engineering, and she's going for electrical diploma now. I asked her, why did you get involved in ship repair? She says, it's so exciting. This is big. It's outward focused. And for South African children, there's an opportunity to get involved in the industry. Whether it's cargo or ship repair or shipbuilding, there is so much opportunity coming. And we need to just get the bumps and the dips out of the shipbuilding industry, for example, so that our shipyards can work at a constant rate. That's always been the failure. We are very anxious to see TNPA's budget come to fruition, and I know it's on their board discussions every month, but we would like to see the upgrading of ship repair and shipbuilding facilities happen. Boat building clusters are trying to get specific areas in the port, within the port. It's happening where we can agglomerate people and have local manufacture as well as putting things together. I'm positive.
All right. Yeah, no, optimism is a beautiful quality, a wonderful thing. But the getting of it done, if Mr. President is saying this in 2013, 2014, and he said it again in his State of the Nation address, we've got to move to some point of actually action taking. Kwezi, what's holding us back in doing the right things?
I think more than anything else, the last couple of years, I think, as indicated by panelists, the state of the global economy hasn't really been much helpful. And I think we need to take that into consideration. At times, we tend to, whilst being optimistic is quite healthy, but we tend to play down the extent to which our economy is intricately entwined and enjoined to global factors. But I think if we were to look domestically, what are the things that we haven't done, or at least what are the things that need to be done in order for a project of this nature or an operation of this nature to take off? We still need to revisit the extent to which we work on inclusivity. I think if we look into some of the documentation that is available online and elsewhere around the kind of thinking and conversations that took place in order to conceptualize and give meaning and structure to this operation, it was largely government and industry. And all of the stakeholders were pretty much afterthoughts. And I think that what is taking place is that because those stakeholders do not see themselves as seriously holding the stake that is promised by the operation, we don't see much movement whereby they are approaching industry, that they are approaching government. You take, for example, the city, or at least the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and of course its strategic place in the blue economy vis-a-vis other provinces of the country. Very few people 200 kilometers from where we are would be both conversant or interested in the issues that we're discussing here, whilst of course all of us are pledging that the operation intends to benefit them. So I think that whilst earlier on you made reference to the point that we talk a lot as South Africans, it's the quality of the conversation and the efficiency of decision making that follows somewhat lopsided conversations. And I think if we can improve on those things, I mean, the work that we do at Accord is basically looking at how to facilitate the kinds of meaningful dialogues. We are always thinking that it's about negotiating participation, whereas it is about actually going to find these stakeholders and having a dialogue on what role do they see for themselves. I think in that way there will be far more greater participation and greater ownership.
All right, okay. On that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, actually, we heard Richard Vallier earlier on talking about a number of skilling and training that happens. Well, we're going to talk, hopefully, to a few of those people that have qualified and have got careers in Transnet, and just to get a sense of the opportunities that are there if you're watching and wondering what kind of career paths you could also take. That's coming up. And also we have an audience here, and I dare say some people in the private sector. I'd like to get their views on a way forward and if this Operation Phakisa Oceans economy is going in the right direction. All of that coming up after this. Stay with us.